Welcome to CTRL News. I am Mondli Sogo, and today we are looking into the G20 Summit that will be held in South Africa later on in this month of November 2025. G20 is a group of 19 countries in the European Union. It was formed earlier on in 1999 after the Asian financial crisis. So what G20 does, it brings together the world's advanced economies and the growing economies into one room to discuss issues of common interest, basically equality, sustainability. When it first started, it was actually attended by the ministers of finance, but later on the demand for it to actually be attended by the presidents actually grew until it was, as we know it today, it is actually attended by leaders of different countries. Well, the one that we are having this year in South Africa is no different from the others, but it just had to have its own drama from Donald Trump. Apparently, Donald Trump is not going to be attending on behalf of the United States, and he has moved on to ban other organizations from the US from actually participating or actually working with the G20. So let's listen at what Donald Trump had to say about the G20.
For generations, Miami has been a haven for those fleeing communist tyranny in South Africa. I mean, if you take a look at what's going on in parts of South Africa, look at South Africa, what's going on. Look at South America, what's going on. You know, I'm not going to, we have a G20 meeting in South Africa. South Africa shouldn't even be in the Gs anymore because what's happened there is bad. I'm not going. I told them I'm not going. I'm not going to represent our country there. It shouldn't be there.
South Africa shouldn't even be in the Gs. That is very rich coming from Donald Trump, a guy that we have actually seen before, presenting fake pictures that were not even from South Africa, saying that they are from South Africa, with whatsoever narrative that he has in his mind or his team has told him about South Africa, without even verifying the facts, without even following up in terms of just knowing if it's true or not. He presented pictures that were from the Congo, from DRC Congo, and he said they were from South Africa. And it was just all dramatic for something that wasn't true at all. So him saying that, someone might ask, what does Trump have to do with South Africa? Because we all know that the democracy standards, there's a whole lot of double standards in terms of how Donald Trump himself, or should I say the White House, actually approach certain problems. There are many other places in the world where a lot of injustice are happening, and the same approach is not taken towards those countries. I'll give you quite a few. South Africa is one of the countries that stood up for Palestine and actually took Israel to the ICC. And remember who is Donald Trump's best friend, bosom friend? Netanyahu, the president of Israel. So that could be one of the reasons that actually made Donald Trump to actually start disliking South Africa. And you remember the bromance between Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Rumor had it that Elon Musk actually wanted to bring Starlink to South Africa, but he didn't want to comply with the BEE laws. So hence, we ended up having to see Cyril Ramaphosa going to the White House because there were a lot of negotiations around that. The billionaire just saw himself too big to comply with the local laws or whatsoever. So since that is still not sorted to this day, that could probably be another reason why Donald Trump is actually boycotting the entire G20 summit. It's actually just a war between Donald Trump and South Africa itself. So, looking at how America handles certain problems, we have a crisis in Sudan going on to this day. South Africa has not intervened. There hasn't been any calls of peace or democracy or whatsoever. The amount of bombs that have been dropped in Palestine, destroying civilians and civilian infrastructure, there was totally nothing from the White House that actually came at the high intensity that Donald Trump is coming at South Africa regarding things that are not even verified in South Africa. rumors that are not verified, with pictures that are not even from South Africa, with a genocide that is occurring in South Africa without evidence, such that the evidence had to be fabricated by the White House, from pictures from other countries and are said to be from South Africa. They are actually being imposed to be from South Africa. Think about it. And one would ask, if that is part of the problems, what are the problems that could cause rift between South Africa and Donald Trump? One of them is the land expropriation bill that wants to take land from white farmers and actually give it back to the indigenous owners of South Africa, of which about 2/3 of the land is still under white people's control, who actually didn't pay for the land, by the way. They invaded the land, they expropriated people's cows and their land without compensation. And they are still holding to that stolen land and the stolen cows to this day that were never returned to the original people. It's a legacy of apartheid that is going on. So that could be part of the reasons that could have caused rift between Donald Trump and South Africa. What does Donald Trump have to do with everything? Elon Musk is still his bosom friend. We may buy the whatever that we see in the media, whatever PR stunts that are being pulled, but he still is Elon Musk's bosom friend. Because after Trump was corrected to say, hey, these images are not from South Africa, he probably, a normal person would have apologized. A normal person would have looked for more facts into the matter, would have been digging more about the matter to make sure that next time they make informed decisions. But we do not see any changes from Donald Trump's side. We have seen a lot of democracy calls on areas that have oil or that have interests, American interests into them. So the G20 that is in South Africa, maybe Donald Trump is displeased with South Africa, and his office of being president of the United States is actually being used now to punish a country for other people's interests. So this has been proven by facts time in and time out again. So coming back into the G20, how has the G20 affected the local area in South Africa before it is being held? Number one, the crime. Cops have been working up and down in South Africa. They have been cleaning out in terms of crime. Crime is on its record low. The streets are cleaner. So the streets have been cleaned day in and day out. They've been removing they've been removing hawkers that have occupied certain corners of the city, that have been selling in certain corners of the city. They've been removed. The city is being kept clean ahead of the G20. So what the citizens of South Africa ended up doing, they took their frustrations online in terms of venting out to say, our government is actually capable in terms of keeping our city clean. Our government is capable to actually end crime. Our government is capable of 1, 2, 3. Unfortunately, the government needed motivation from the G20. Have a listen to this.
So here's a Sunday rant that you didn't ask for. Guys, have you been seeing these pictures of the Joburg CBD that are making the rounds? Pictures that show a clean CBD, that show a spotless CBD. The traffic lights work, guys. It just looks so functional, so orderly. Apparently, even there by Dunusa, there's no longer Dunusa. It's a mail. And if you're from Joburg, you know exactly where Dunusa is. There's no longer any Dunusa. If you're a thrifter, sorry, Hare. It's all gone. Why? Because of the G20 Summit. Dada Murero and his friends finally decided to get their acts together because we've got people coming to the country. And so they're basically giving us the CBD that we've been begging for ages. And you know what? I'm not so mad about that. The Joburg CBD deserves a facelift, guys. It really deserves a cleanup. The CBD has such a special place in my heart. You know those little children, guys, that travel through the CBD with big bags and they're walking along and they're little small kids like this walking through the city? That used to be me. I was that child. I used to get off Motex Soweto and travel and get onto another taxi to go to the other side of town to a school that my parents thought was decent. That was me. So the CBD has such a special place in my heart. But you know what makes me upset? It's the fact that from this process, we can see that these people are actually capable. They just refuse to clean it up. Our beloved city that we love so much, they just refuse. They don't want to. They need a reason to clean it up. And G20 is the reason now for them to clean up the CBD. But they actually can. And so when we keep on saying the Joburg CBD is a lost cause, hey, it's gone to the dog. No, it's not a lost cause. These people are able, and it's fixable. We can see that it's actually fixable. But they just refuse to fix it. They have no will to fix it.
So that is the effect that the G20 has on the local infrastructure in Johannesburg and in terms of just how things are actually run in Johannesburg. Having a look at the fact that she's pointing out that the robots are working, meaning the robots problem or the traffic light problem is something that could have always been taken care of, really, if the government wanted to fix it. So G20 has actually exposed the South African government to say most of the problems that the residents of Johannesburg have, they can be taken care of if the government really want to take care of those problems. So, and now we are about to move into what this year's G20 is going to be looking into and what is the setup around the points that is making. One of them is actually sustainability in terms of making sure that economically, like there is a bit of stability there and there. Unfortunately, which I don't see happening because of a gentleman like Donald Trump. Once again, his favorite word, tariffs, and there are wars going on left, right, and center, trade wars that the president of the United States started with China immediately walked into office, and there's been an exchange of tariffs and an exchange of a whole lot of things, and we are seeing wars left, right, and center. Some of those wars take place in places where there should be a route for that is carrying containers, supplying other countries. So sustainability is a very fragile topic to look at this point in time for the G20 leaders. And the next one is actually equality. Equality is still a very distant dream. The reason being, I will give you examples. Number one, the war between Israel and Palestine, the same standards, the same merits against Israel with actual evidence, proven evidence that Israel has committed war crimes in Palestine. No one has been persecuted yet. Donald Trump is still meeting with the Israeli president without problems. However, when it comes to South Africa, the president of the United States doesn't even have evidence. They had to fabricate evidence from other countries. But he's already boycotting a G20, citing that bad things are happening in South Africa. So that just shows you that there's no equality there. And also, President Cyril Ramaphosa, who is currently presiding in the G20, I believe this is the year, his term is ending, I think later on in the year. He has actually cited a whole lot about equality. When the African countries were looking for vaccines during the COVID pandemic, they were actually the very last one on the list. They were not taken seriously versus other economies. So there wasn't much respect for African countries who were in need of vaccines and all that. So equality is one of the things that needs to be looked into over anything. If you were to look, I'm going back to America again. President Trump wants to help out the Nigerian government in terms of the videos that have been surfacing of Christians that have been unalived, like very, very scary videos of Christians that have targeted and specifically being unalived. So he wants to actually intervene in that, but he cannot intervene in Sudan. Nigeria has oil. Nigeria doesn't just have oil, but also Nigeria is bordering Niger and Chad, which are the African countries that want to use their own resources to help their own people other than exporting a whole lot of things. Yes, we know and understand that they were being taken over through a military coup, but that could be a direct threat to those countries, having a foreign army into Nigeria, which is not very far from them. That could be a direct threat that could cause instability to a certain extent. And those are some of the things that are actually challenging the peace and stability. So we understand Donald Trump's gesture of being in solidarity with the Christians in Nigeria who are being unalived. But in terms of how it is being executed, it may even give us much more problems than it can actually give us solutions. So in terms of solidarity, we are in a world that is full of wars going on. We have one going on in Europe. We have another one going on in Sudan, if I can call it a war or it's just a genocide. We have another war still going on in the DRC. Another part that the G20 will be looking into is solidarity. Solidarity is a very difficult topic to discuss when you have wars going on in different corners of the world. When President Trump came up, he said he's going to be the president that will be ending war. Well, he has successfully created a trade war. He successfully used tariffs to destroy other economies. And we have seen actual wars in his term. So in terms of solidarity and in terms of trading peacefully, we're still having another war going on in Europe. We're having another one going on in Sudan, if I can call it war or genocide. We still don't have a solution for Gaza.